The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Jess De Los Santos. The government will divert Cebu-bound international flights to Manila starting tomorrow until June 5. Malacanang explains that the local government unit is now running out of quarantine hotels. Let's talk more about this with Health Department Region 7 spokesperson Dr. Mary Jean Loreche. Good afternoon, Doc. First off, what do you think will be the impact of this move by the government to the COVID-19 situation, not just in the country, but particularly in Cebu? Okay, Doc, I think you are on mute.
Yes.
All right,
This came as a surprise to us. Remember that we have been in planning and in collaboration with the various agencies regarding our protocols. And so when we received the memo yesterday that our flights will be diverted to Manila, the big question there was why, all right? It primarily, I think, emanated from the fact that we were conducting a test upon arrival. Instead of the day 7, which was actually as mandated by the IETF. So definitely it will have an impact on our economy. Remember that we also need to revive our arrivals or the use of our airport here.
So I guess, Doc, this stems really from what really is a policy here. Are LGUs allowed to somehow have their own interpretation of IETF policies? Because I think this is where Governor Gwen Garcia is coming from.
It's not really about the interpretation of the policy, but rather it is more of based on our history here in Central Visayas, particularly with One Cebu. We have actually been conducting the test upon arrival. There has been, if you look at the timeline of the various IATF resolutions in testing our arriving OFWs, when we had this variants of concern starting on December, there were changes in the days of arrival testing. Meaning to say, initially on December, they wanted it to be upon arrival. And then sometime in January, another resolution came up with a testing on day 5. But here in Central Visayas, we have consistently been doing 2 tests upon arrival and on day 5. Now, sometime in March, because again, our case control of cases is very good, we had an interagency meeting with all the stakeholders, including our overseas welfare, our Department of Tourism, our hotels, including even, and of course us in the Department of Health and the Bureau of Quarantine. So we discussed what could be done, how we would be able to address issues on number 1, making sure that the OFWs, when they arrive, we can release them as early as we can, understanding the need for them to be home with their families without sacrificing their health and of course our cases. So secondly, what we have also seen and heard would be our hotels, if you are going to do really follow the 10-day quarantine or 14-day quarantine, then there will be a lack of hotel rooms because we only have so much. We have, I think, 2,500 hotel rooms that are allocated for our OFWs and our ROFs. Now, you can just imagine if you have 700 to 800 arrivals, then you retain them, that's per day, and then you retain them in the hotel for 10 to 14 days. Then in a matter of 3 days, you would have filled up the hotel rooms already. So we had to address that correspondingly with our meetings. And so we came up with an agreement, and which was actually embodied in the EO of the governor with the guidance also of the Department of Health Region 7, because our understanding also is this, from the basic science of it, when you do the testing upon arrival, and if the arriving passenger truly have the virus in their system in the incubation period, you would still be able to catch it if that is what you really want. Okay? Now, if you really want also to detect if the virus is taken during their transit or maybe during their quarantine period, then you can do the testing on day 7. So if you look in the EO of the governor, it is stated there that for all Cebu arriving passengers, we are going to conduct upon arrival. And then when they are negative on the 3rd day, we release them to the LGU because we are confident that our BHERTs or our barangay health emergency response teams and the barangay health workers would be able to catch them on day 7 for the retesting or reswapping. But then that would open up rooms already in the hotels. And also, for those other arriving passengers, we have to still do the day 7 swabbing for us to comply with the IETF resolution. There was just some kind of a variation without really compromising, the capacity to be able to detect the virus should it be truly there. Now, let me just share with you our data. What we did was for day 1 and then conducted also day 7 in compliance with the IETF Resolution 114. And we found out that for 4,167 arriving passengers in a matter of several days, the difference in terms of finding COVID for these two upon arrival and on day 7 is almost similar for different individuals. Meaning to say, there is really not so much a huge significance that you would say that you need to conduct the testing on day 7 only because that is when you're going to catch COVID. So it doesn't work really like that. So we're trying to address all aspects in a holistic manner, making
Doc,
sure that the OFW who is actually excited to be home, we want to be sure also that their mental health, their emotional support is also given.
okay.
That's why
Doc
we release them
Loreche,
on day
given
3
that, we
when
do
they are
realize, of
negative.
course, that you understand better the situation on the ground. But that raises two questions as well. To your understanding, are you allowed to modify IETF rules? And the second one is has this been coordinated with the IETF, at least on the national level?
For that, I think the better person to answer regarding rules and regulations and executive orders would be our governor or the LGU that is concerned. What I'm telling you only is on the grounds, on the level of the health protocols that we have, that we are implementing, is not really, does not really contradict what the IATF has because we are testing it twice upon arrival and on day 7. But for us also to free up the rooms, then we have to be able to release our Cebu residents, those who are from our place, because we know that at the level of our barangays and cities, they would already be monitored. They will be placed in their quarantine areas, and another swabbing is still conducted on day 7.
Okay, now, can you give us an idea at least what is a COVID situation for Cebu City? I mean, your emergency operations center did find that most of those who recently contracted the virus did not wear masks. So do you think it's still driven by per compliance, at least the number of cases or the trends that you have now?
If you look at our cases for the past 2 or 3 weeks, we have very low number of additional new cases. So as of yesterday's data, it is even less than 30 the new cases that we have. All right. Our critical care utilization is only at 12.4%, which is a reflection of how we are in terms of case control management. Well, you know that wherever you go, compliance to the health protocols is not just an issue here with us because you see, it can be national or international. People really have to also do their job or their share of the responsibility by making sure that they wear their masks properly. It's not wearing mask, but wearing it properly.
Okay, now, Doc, of course, vaccine deployment for frontliners will be focused on select areas, including Metro Cebu. Are you now ready to proceed to A4, and how's your supply so far?
Yes, we are definitely ready to proceed with A4. We have our systems in place. We have our community vaccination sites, care of our LGUs. We have our Project Balik Buhay, our private sector partnership, having also the vaccination sites. So we are really ready for, should more doses or the supplies will be more available for us. And yes, we are almost done with our A1. Even with A2, we have started with A2 and A3. We're just waiting for the final guidelines from the IATF on the inclusions of who will be included in the A4 category, because currently what is written there only is that these are the personnel, no, armed personnel or uniformed personnel that should be in the A4. So we're waiting for that go signal from the national government, and of course dependent also on the supplies that will be given to us.
All right, thank you very much for those updates. Again, DOH Region 7 spokesperson Dr. Mary Jean Loreche. Thank you, Doc. Now, the IETF has spelled out the A4 vaccine priority group as inoculation of the cluster is set to begin as early as June. Listed on the A4 category are private sector workers required to physically report to work, as well as government employees and those who work in GOCCs and LGUs. Informal sector workers, self-employed ones, and those who work in private households are also eligible. The initial batch of vaccines for the A4 priority will be deployed to NCR, Bulacan, Pampanga, Cavite, Laguna, as well as in Batangas, Rizal, Metro Cebu, and Metro Davao. On the other hand, OFWs set for deployment within the next 4 months have been bumped up to the A1 category. Immediate family members of healthcare workers will also be moved up to A1 once enough supplies are available. The Galapagos Islands in Ecuador is eyeing to vaccinate 100% of its adult population in a bid to lure tourists. Let's watch this video from Bloomberg Quick Take.
Pero adicionalmente, si nosotros inmunizamos, se van a sentir mucho más atraídos a venir y visitarnos y eso va a ayudar a la economía de la gente. Pero la decisión ha sido de salud, yo siempre recalco eso. No es un problema de reactivación, es un problema de salud.
Hay turistas muy especiales como el europeo, como el americano, entonces si ellos saben que Galápagos está la gente vacunada, entonces ya van a tener una seguridad de venir acá, ¿no? Porque ahí ya van a tener una garantía para que el turista venga y salir adelante nosotros para poder salir de las deudas que tenemos, ¿no?
Aquí tenemos muchos guías que son el sostén de su hogar, no solo de su hogar, de su núcleo familiar cercano, sino también de sus padres y de sus suegros. Entonces tenían muchos guías la necesidad de comprar, por ejemplo, medicinas para controlar la presión, hipotiroidismo, y decían, ya no tengo.
For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Jess De Los Santos. We are One News.